Imagine planning a wedding for months, only to wake up one morning with a $66,000 bill shoved into your lap, signed in your name, and everyone expecting you to pay. That's exactly what happened to me, and the way it all unfolded still makes my blood boil. It started when my younger sister, Emily, got engaged. She was always the golden child, the one my parents adored and spoiled. I didn't mind most of the time, but when it came to her wedding, I had no idea just how far they'd go. Emily and her fiancé, Daniel, wanted a fairy tale wedding. Not just a nice ceremony, not just a fancy reception, but the kind of wedding you see in magazines with chandeliers, horse-drawn carriages, and fireworks. My parents were over the moon about it. They promised Emily they'd take care of everything. At least, that's what they told her. And me? I was barely involved. I figured I'd show up, smile, give a gift, and clap when they kissed. The problem started about 6 months before the wedding. One night, my mom called me, sounding cheerful as ever. "Sweetheart, we're so excited for Emily's big day. The family is really coming together to make this happen." I said, "That's great, Mom. I'm happy for her." There was a pause, then she added casually, "So we'll need your signature on a few contracts. Nothing major, just standard paperwork to make things easier." That raised my eyebrows. "Why would you need my signature?" "Oh, it's just how the planner structured things. Don't worry, you won't actually be paying anything. It just makes the booking process smoother." At the time, I felt uneasy, but she sounded so confident, so reassuring, that I reluctantly agreed. She sent over a few documents through email, and I signed them without really digging in. My biggest mistake. Fast forward to the month of the wedding. The planning was insane. Emily was running around like a bridezilla, yelling at florists, snapping at bridesmaids, and demanding last-minute changes. I kept my distance. It wasn't my circus. But 3 weeks before the wedding, I got a thick envelope in the mail. Inside was an invoice for $66,000. Venues, catering, dresses, flowers, entertainment, the whole 9 yards. And every single page had my name at the bottom as the financial guarantor. I thought it had to be a mistake. I called my mom immediately. "Mom, what the hell is this? Why is there a $66,000 bill with my name on it?" Her tone flipped from sweet to sharp. "Don't raise your voice. We talked about this. You signed the contracts. You told me it was just for convenience. And it was. But since you're in a better financial position, it just made sense to have you as the responsible party. Don't act like you can't afford it." I was stunned. I never agreed to pay for Emily's wedding. My dad jumped on the phone then. "You're being dramatic. This is family. Sometimes you step up. Emily deserves this. You're single, no big responsibilities, you can handle it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They didn't even ask me. They just tricked me into signing and now expected me to cough up more money than I even had. I told them flat out, "No. I'm not paying a single dollar of this." That's when the guilt tripping began. Emily called me crying, screaming that I was ruining her dream wedding. My mom said I was selfish. My dad said I was a disgrace to the family. Daniel even chimed in, calling me pathetic for not supporting my sister. For a week straight, my phone blew up with calls, texts, and messages from relatives. Word spread fast, and suddenly I was the villain of the story. Everyone said I was heartless, that I was embarrassing Emily and destroying her happiness. I tried to explain that I was tricked, but nobody cared. The narrative was set. I was the stingy older sibling who refused to help. The wedding planner even reached out to me, saying, "Since your name is on the contract, you are legally responsible for these charges." Panic hit me. Not only was my family pressuring me, but I could actually be sued. I went back and pulled up the emails my mom had sent. Sure enough, the documents were all legally binding. And I had signed them, blindly trusting her. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning, wondering how I was going to fight this. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I explained everything, showed him the emails, and he sighed. "They misled you, but unfortunately, your signature carries weight. However, depending on the wording, we might have a case to argue that you were misinformed. We'll need to dig deeper." I felt like I was drowning. My own family had set me up, and now I was scrambling to save myself. But then, as I sat at my desk staring at that $66,000 invoice, something inside me snapped. If they wanted to play dirty, fine. I could play dirtier. What I did next not only saved me from paying the bill, but turned the entire wedding upside down in a way my family never saw coming. I decided the first step was to stop being defensive. I had been reacting, panicking, letting them control the story. If I wanted to turn this around, I had to take control. So I played along. The next time Emily called me screaming, I lowered my voice and said, "You're right. Maybe I overreacted. Let me look into some options, and I'll see what I can do." Instantly, she softened. "Thank you. I knew you'd come through for me." But inside, I was boiling. I wasn't coming through for anyone. I was setting the stage. My lawyer and I went through every single contract, page by page, line by line, and we found something golden. Buried in the fine print of the catering agreement was a clause stating that the responsible party must be present for all tastings and confirmations. Otherwise, liability falls to the primary client. Guess who never attended a single tasting or confirmation? Me. Guess who attended all of them? Emily and my parents. My lawyer smirked. "This is enough to argue that you were a placeholder signature, not the actual client. If they want to fight this, they'll have to admit they intentionally misrepresented things." That gave me leverage. But I wanted more than just an escape. I wanted revenge. I started gathering evidence. Every text, every voicemail, every manipulative message. My mom's "you're single, so you can afford it." Emily's tantrums. Daniel calling me pathetic. I kept everything. 2 weeks before the wedding, I made my move. I called the venue directly. "Hi, this is my name. I need to confirm who is listed as the responsible client for payments." The manager hesitated. "Well, technically your name is on the paperwork, but all payments so far have come from your parents. We've been dealing with them directly." Perfect. That was all I needed. I told him politely. "In that case, please note that I am not authorizing any further charges under my name. If there's an issue, you'll need to contact the people actually making the payments." He seemed uneasy but said, "Understood." Then I called the florist, the photographer, the DJ, the planner. Same message. "I am not financially responsible. Do not bill me. Contact the people who arranged everything." By the time I was done, every vendor had been warned. Of course, my mom found out quickly. She blew up my phone. "What do you think you're doing? You can't just pull out like this." "Oh, I can," I said calmly, "because I never agreed to pay. And if you keep harassing me, I'll forward everything to my lawyer." Silence. Then a hiss. "You ungrateful child." I hung up, but I wasn't finished. The next step was letting the rest of the family know the truth. They had painted me as the villain, so I decided to show them the receipts. Literally. I made a group email with all the relatives who had been bad-mouthing me. In it, I attached copies of the contracts, screenshots of my mom telling me it was just convenience, and a voice recording of Emily screaming that I had to pay because she deserved it. I ended the email with one line. "If you still think I'm the villain, maybe ask yourselves why a family would trick their own child into signing away $66,000. The fallout was nuclear. Half the relatives immediately switched sides, furious at my parents. The other half stayed quiet, clearly embarrassed. Emily tried damage control, but the screenshots spoke louder than her tears. Then came the wedding day. I had debated not going, but a part of me wanted to see the show. So I dressed up, walked in with my head high, and sat down as if nothing had happened. The tension was thick. My mom wouldn't look at me. My dad glared. Emily looked like she wanted to claw my face off. During the reception, Daniel's family pulled me aside. They had gotten wind of what happened and were horrified. His father muttered, "If I had known your parents pulled something like this, we would have reconsidered this entire arrangement." I smiled politely. Well, better to know now than later. The real bomb dropped when the vendors started circling. Remember how I told them I wasn't responsible? Well, some of them decided to demand final payments that night. One by one, managers and staff approached my parents, not me, asking for checks. My mom's fake smile cracked. My dad's face turned beet red. Emily was whispering furiously, pointing at me, but the vendors had already been warned. At one point, the DJ literally said in front of the guests, "Sorry, we need the remaining balance before we continue." The music cut off. The room went silent. Everyone stared. My parents scrambled to write checks while Emily cried at the head table. Guests whispered. Daniel's relatives looked mortified. And me? I just sat back, sipping champagne, watching the chaos I hadn't even had to cause. The best part? Later that night, my lawyer called to tell me the venue had officially removed my name from all contracts, citing client misrepresentation. Legally, I was free. I had walked into that wedding with the weight of $66,000 on my shoulders. I walked out with nothing but satisfaction. But revenge has a way of digging deeper, and this story wasn't over yet. Because what came after the wedding turned out to be even sweeter. The wedding disaster was only the beginning. What happened when the bills came due tore my family apart in a way none of us saw coming. The week after the wedding was like watching a slow-motion car crash. On the surface, Emily's big day had gone on, but the cracks were already spreading. Vendors kept hounding my parents for payments. Some had been covered with rushed checks, but others hadn't. The florist called me again, saying, "We still haven't received full payment." I redirected them to my parents, and when they realized I wasn't budging, they started harassing Emily directly. Emily didn't like that one bit. She called me late at night, screaming, "Do you know how embarrassing it is to get calls from vendors saying we owe money? This is your fault." I laughed bitterly. "My fault?" "Emily," I told them the truth. "You wanted the fairy tale wedding. You got it. Now pay for it." She shrieked something about me being heartless and hung up. Then my dad called. His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the anger boiling. "You've disgraced this family. Everyone's talking about how you sabotaged your sister's wedding." "No, Dad," I said evenly. "I exposed the lies. If that disgraces you, that's on you, not me." Click. He hung up. But while my parents tried to keep control, whispers started spreading. Some relatives who had seen the chaos at the reception began asking questions. Why were vendors demanding money at the wedding? Why had my parents lied about who was paying? Why had Emily thrown such a tantrum? The golden family image they had worked so hard to project was cracking. And I didn't even have to lift a finger anymore. 2 weeks later, the real disaster hit. Daniel's parents invited my family over for dinner. I wasn't invited, of course, but word got back to me from a cousin who was close with Daniel's family. Apparently, Daniel's father confronted my parents at the table. We were told the wedding was fully paid and handled. Instead, we've heard nothing but stories of unpaid bills and manipulation. Do you realize how this makes us look? My mom tried to play the victim, saying, "Our older child was supposed to cover it, but they backed out at the last minute." That's when Daniel's mother, bless her soul, cut her off. We saw the evidence, the emails, the contracts, the recordings. Don't lie to us. Your child didn't back out, they were tricked. Emily burst into tears. Daniel sat there looking like he wanted to disappear. After that dinner, the dynamic between the families shifted. Daniel's parents stopped offering financial help. They had been generous before, covering part of the honeymoon and other expenses, but now they pulled everything. They weren't about to throw more money at a family that lied and schemed. Emily, of course, blamed me. She posted vague rants on social media about selfish siblings and toxic family members. People who knew the truth messaged me privately, saying, "She's making herself look worse. Don't even respond." I didn't. Silence was my best weapon. But then something unexpected happened. One of the vendors actually sued. The photographer, who hadn't been paid the remainder of his $8,000 bill, filed a small claims case. And guess who got dragged into the paperwork? My parents. Not me. The contracts had been amended, and my lawyer had made sure I was out of it. When my parents realized they had to stand in court, they tried a last-ditch effort to rope me back in. My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes red from crying. "Please, sweetheart, don't let this destroy the family. Just pay the bills, and we'll make it up to you." I stared at her. For a moment, a small part of me felt pity. But then I remembered the sleepless nights, the screaming phone calls, the way they had all painted me as the villain. "No," I said firmly. "You made your bed. Lie in it." Her face twisted, not into sorrow, but into rage. "You'll regret this." She stormed off. Court day came, and I didn't attend, but my cousin did. She told me my parents looked humiliated as the photographer laid out the unpaid invoices. The judge ordered them to pay in full, plus legal fees. It was only $8,000 compared to the full $66,000, but it set the tone. Other vendors now realized they had a legal path. My parents were drowning in bills, and their credit started taking hits. Emily and Daniel moved in with my parents temporarily to save money. That alone was karma enough. 4 adults under one roof, constantly fighting, pointing fingers at each other. Meanwhile, I lived my life in peace. Every time I got a new update about the chaos, I felt a little lighter. The final straw came 3 months later. Emily and Daniel announced they were moving out of state, but not for a job or a new opportunity, because they couldn't stand the shame anymore. Too many people knew what had happened. Too many whispers followed them wherever they went. They left with debt, damaged reputations, and broken relationships. And me? I became the black sheep who survived. Some relatives still grumble about how I could have helped, but the majority know the truth now. They know who the real villains were. I didn't just dodge a $66,000 bullet. I exposed the ugly truth about my family. But here's the kicker, the twist I didn't see coming until later. A year after the wedding, I got a call from Daniel. His voice was quiet, almost defeated. "You were right. About everything. Emily's been spending money we don't have, maxing out credit cards, lying about it. I can't keep up. I think I'm done." I was speechless. The golden marriage, the fairy tale wedding, the picture-perfect life, they were all crumbling. Emily's dream wedding hadn't just cost her family, it was about to cost her marriage. And the fallout would make my revenge look small compared to what came next. When Daniel called me that night, I didn't know what to say at first. Hearing him sound so defeated was surreal. This was the same guy who had once called me pathetic for refusing to pay for his lavish wedding. Now, a year later, he was the one drowning. He sighed. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I know I was awful to you. But I needed someone who understands what she's like. Emily doesn't stop. No matter how much I work, no matter how much money I bring in, it's never enough. She wants more clothes, more vacations, more parties. She's addicted to appearances." I stayed quiet, letting him talk. "She maxed out 3 credit cards without telling me," he continued. "I only found out when collectors started calling. She says I'm failing her if I don't provide the lifestyle she deserves." I almost laughed. It was exactly what she had done with the wedding, building a dream on someone else's dime. "Daniel," I said finally, "I'm not sure what you expect me to say. You married her. You knew what kind of person she was." He groaned. "I know. I thought she'd change. I thought once the wedding was over, she'd calm down. But it's worse now. I can't live like this." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Then leave," I said simply. There was silence on the line. Then he whispered, "I'm thinking about it." And that was the beginning of the end. Over the next few months, I started hearing updates through the grapevine. Daniel confided in a few of his friends, and word got around. Emily was blowing through money they didn't have, lying to cover it up, and lashing out whenever Daniel confronted her. She even pawned some of the wedding gifts, expensive appliances, jewelry, just to fund her shopping sprees. When Daniel found out, it sparked a screaming match so loud that neighbors called the police. By the time their second anniversary rolled around, their marriage was hanging by a thread. And then the bomb dropped. One of Daniel's friends messaged me privately. "Hey, just a heads up. Emily's been cheating on him. With a guy from her gym." I blinked at the message, stunned but not surprised. Emily had always craved attention. If she wasn't getting it from Daniel, she was bound to find it somewhere else. 2 weeks later, Daniel called me again. His voice was shaking with anger this time. She admitted it. "She's been seeing someone else. I'm filing for divorce." I sat there in silence, letting it sink in. The girl who had once been handed everything on a silver platter, whose dream wedding had cost me nearly everything, was about to lose the one thing she thought she had secured forever, her marriage. Daniel went through with it. The divorce filings became public, and everyone in our extended family saw them. The whispers started again. Only this time, they weren't about me. They were about Emily. She cheated. After everything her parents did for that wedding? Unbelievable. My parents tried desperately to control the narrative. My mom said things like, "It was just a mistake, she still loves him." And my dad muttered, "Marriage is hard work." But no one was buying it. The damage was done. Daniel's family, who had already lost respect for mine after the wedding fiasco, cut ties completely. They wanted nothing to do with Emily or my parents. By the time the divorce was finalized, Emily was back living with my parents. Broke. Ashamed. And still delusional enough to think she was the victim. She even tried reaching out to me once. She showed up at my door unannounced, mascara streaked down her face. "I know I was awful to you, but you're my sibling. I need you. Please help me." I looked at her, really looked at her. The girl who had once stood in a sparkling white dress, demanding the world bow to her fairy tale wedding, was now standing in front of me, hollow and broken. For a moment, I almost felt that sibling bond tug at me. But then I remembered the way she had screamed at me, the way she had called me heartless, the way she had expected me to bankrupt myself for her happiness. I shook my head. "No, Emily. You made your choices. And now you're living with them." Her face crumpled. She whispered, "You'll regret this," before storming off. Funny thing is, I didn't regret it. Not one bit. If anything, I felt free. Free from the manipulation. Free from the guilt trips. Free from the family's toxic grip. Because in the end, they had all shown their true colors. And while they were drowning in debt, scandal, and broken relationships, I was thriving. The wedding had been the spark, but the fire consumed them all. And I just walked away untouched. But just when I thought it was all over, karma had one more surprise in store. And this one didn't just end Emily's reputation. It shattered my parents as well. I thought the drama had finally died down after Emily's divorce. She was back living with my parents, sulking around like a ghost, while I enjoyed the peace of having cut ties. For months, I didn't hear from them, and honestly, I preferred it that way. But karma, as it turns out, wasn't done with them. It started small. A distant cousin reached out to me saying, "Hey, I heard your parents' business is in trouble. Is that true?" I hadn't heard anything, so I brushed it off. But then, a week later, I saw a notice online. My parents' names listed in a public record of delinquent accounts. Apparently, the debt from the wedding had snowballed. The vendors they hadn't paid in full had started reporting them to credit agencies. Their credit score tanked. Loans they relied on for their small business dried up. I almost couldn't believe it. The same people who once bragged about taking care of everything were now drowning financially. All because of their own lies. The tension at their house got worse. Emily, jobless and bitter, was constantly fighting with my mom. My dad, exhausted from working extra hours to keep things afloat, snapped at everyone. A cousin who visited told me, "It's like living in a war zone over there." And then came the final blow. One of the vendors, ironically, the wedding planner who had pushed for all those lavish extras, decided to sue for breach of contract. Unlike the photographer, this wasn't small claims. This was big. Tens of thousands of dollars big. My parents tried to settle quietly, but the planner refused. The case went to court, and once again, my family's dirty laundry spilled out in public. Documents, testimonies, and even those same emails my mom had sent me all resurfaced. This time, though, it wasn't just about money. It was about reputation. People from our community heard about the case. Whispers spread again, only louder this time. They tricked their own child? They scammed vendors? No wonder everything's falling apart. By the end of the trial, my parents were ordered to pay a massive settlement. Combined with their other debts, it pushed them to the brink of bankruptcy. And just like that, the perfect image they had always projected, the generous, successful family, the doting parents, the golden daughter, shattered. I heard about all of this from the sidelines. I didn't attend court. I didn't interfere. I just watched as karma dismantled everything they had built on lies. The last time I saw Emily was at a grocery store. She looked worn out, hair unkempt, clothes wrinkled. She avoided my eyes at first, but then she muttered, "Are you happy now?" I looked at her calmly. "I didn't do this, Emily. You did. All of you did." She didn't reply. She just pushed her cart past me and disappeared down the aisle. Walking out of that store, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even bitter. I just felt free. They had dug their own grave, and all I had done was refuse to fall into it with them. The shocking twist? The very wedding they thought would be the highlight of Emily's life, the event that would cement their family's legacy, ended up being the curse that destroyed everything. Her marriage, their finances, their reputation. And me? I walked away with nothing lost and everything gained. Sometimes revenge isn't about what you do. Sometimes it's about letting people choke on their own poison. And that's exactly what happened. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more crazy Reddit stories.